cookie. If you're getting a school breakfast outreach grant, and it's $5 million, you'd say, well, that's easy. It's a $5 million score. No, it's not. Congress figures that if you do school breakfast outreach, more children are going to participate in the program. So they'll score you the $5 million for the grants, and then they'll also figure out approximately how many more kids are going to participate, and they'll charge you for each of those kids. So what you thought was a $5 million score will really be an $8.7 billion score, because you have to pay for those additional above baseline kids. These are some of our big access priorities. And when I say access, this is expanding the program up to more children. And the first priority actually is included in the Senate Agriculture Committee passed bill, and this has implications for Arizona. There are 13 states in the District of Columbia that currently operate an after-school meal program. And I've seen it in action. It's a great program. If you're in a geographic area where 50% or more of the kids are eligible for free and reduced price meals, much like the open summer food sites, you can get reimbursed for a meal, not just a snack, a meal that you provide for the children. And it's a wonderful way for schools and others to get kids fed after school. And as more and more parents are working non-traditional hours and kids are in after-school programs longer, it's a wonderful tool to have for the kids, so it's great. We would love to see the area eligibility test lowered from where 50% of the kids have to be eligible to only 40%, which will open up huge areas in many states. We'd like to see, what else we have up there? Start up an expansion of universal in-classroom breakfast programs. This is a great tool. For those of you who have teenagers, you know, I have 3 of them, that given the choice between sleeping 20 minutes or going to school and getting breakfast, they will sleep. So what we found to be very, very effective is in homeroom, in classroom, either by kiosk or carts, kids grab the bag, they sit down, they eat their breakfast, the teacher's taking attendance, writing notes on the board, the kids consume their breakfast, and they're rocking ready to go for the day. So it is an incredible tool for teachers and for school administrators. You wouldn't be surprised to note that tardiness goes down, absenteeism goes down, visits to the nurse's office goes down, test scores go up, and the latest thing we found out were trips to the assistant principal for disruption and discipline problems goes down. Kids are not hungry, they're less agitated, they're nourished, and they feel good. So it's a very powerful tool. I know here, given your status with summer food, getting outreach, expansion, and very much transportation grants for summer feeding will be critically important for you. One thing that I mentioned to Tony earlier is that in the Senate bill, they lift the restriction on nonprofit sponsors in terms of the number of sites you can operate, so you won't have to keep going for waivers in order to operate additional sites. For preschool CACFP, we would like the option of a third meal for children who are in preschool for long periods of time. That could be a snack or a meal. You know, with little kids, they tend to eat a lot of little meals throughout the course of the day, so this would be a wonderful thing to have. And again, getting back to those of you who operate programs, eliminating paperwork, eliminating all the duplication that's in the systems. It would be great to expand what we call direct certification to Medicaid, so that in addition to, if you're a child in a SNAP food stamp household, you're automatically enrolled into free meals at school. Well, it would be wonderful, in addition to the food stamp office sending that information over, if the Medicaid office could do the same way, again, eliminating some of those paper applications. We have the statistical data in-house. We should be sharing that. Again, the President in his FY 2010 and 2011 budgets included $1 billion a year over 10 years for child nutrition reauthorization. I want to switch gears a little bit now, because when we have these kinds of conversations, my goal as a lobbyist is to have you walk out that door and say, you know, I could do that. That's one thing that I think that I can do to help end hunger here in Arizona. And so I want to give you a couple different models that I've seen work across the country that I think can work for you as well. The easiest thing is, next time you're at your computer, just click on www.frac.org and keep up with what's happening in Washington, D.C. Oftentimes we'll have just a click of the mouse. You can send a letter to your members of Congress urging them to support child nutrition reauthorization, or asking them to do something or another. So that's the easiest way you can do that, and you can do that with FRAC in Washington as a national organization, or through the many organizations that are here today. I often click on Ginny Hildebrand's website to find out what's going on here. So in your packet, there's a bunch of different things that you can get on the FRAC website that I just want to draw your attention to. One is this orange piece, which is all the different bills in Congress that deal with child nutrition reauthorization. The blue paper are the highlights of the Senate bill that came out on March 24th. So these are some of the things that you can use in order to keep up with happening in Washington, D.C. That is Congresswoman Carolyn McCarthy from Long Island, New York, and she's visiting a summer food site. Now, this is the all-time best way to educate your members of Congress. And many of you have had your members of Congress come into your agencies, tour your food banks. I know that Feeding America and FRAC are really doing a push to have food banks have members of Congress visit their kids' cafe and interact with the kids rather than going through the warehouse and joining in boxing of commodities. It's a great way for them to find out the needs of the families in your community. What Ms. McCarthy did is she toured a site on Long Island that had a very, very strong educational component. Earlier in the day, the kids were making those plaster of Paris volcanoes, and you put the baking soda in the middle, and then you pour in, what do you pour in? You pour in something. Vinegar, right, vinegar. I do this with my son. And then it bubbles up. If you notice her nails, she didn't go near the plaster of Paris. But that being said, right now she's sitting with the kids at lunch. They read poetry to her, and then there was a playground out back, and the kids were running around. And this was 2 years ago, and she really became an advocate for summer food. And then last year, this site was threatened to be closed because of budget cutbacks. She personally got involved with the local elected officials to fight to keep this site open. So it's a wonderful thing you can do when you get advocates in your members of Congress. So that we have a one-pager on how to organize a successful site visit, so you can get that. This is something that started with our advocates in Florida and has just become a fabulous way to talk to your members of Congress. And this is not just members of Congress. It could be with state officials as well. And that is, if you can't get to Washington or if you can't get to the State House, you can organize what we call community calls. Get the right 6 to 8 groups in your community, could be religious, could be direct service, an education group, a pediatrician,